Listen this time. One more question, Sheriff. Did you ever see me before? Can you say positively that I am George Vale?
That's my brother. Hello, brother.
When Chuck Connors died in 1992, most people remembered him as the Rifleman, that tall, rugged cowboy with a Winchester rifle and a soft spot for his son. But that's just the Hollywood version. The real Chuck Connors? He was far more complicated. He wasn't just an actor. He was a pro athlete, a soldier, a political firebrand, and believe it or not, a hero in the eyes of the Soviet Union. While tensions between the US and USSR were at their peak, Chuck Connors somehow became a national icon behind the Iron Curtain. Brezhnev loved him. Kremlin leaders welcomed him. Millions of Soviet citizens tuned in every week to watch an American cowboy teach justice and firepower. But his personal life was a battlefield. 3 marriages, scandalous affairs, accusations of abuse. He built his reputation as a strong father figure, but at home, his own children watched him unravel. His politics made him a lightning rod in Hollywood. He stood with Nixon when his peers turned their backs. He supported Vietnam when the world protested. How does a man go from playing first base for the Dodgers to shaking hands with communist leaders at the Kremlin? This isn't just the story of a television cowboy. This is the untold life of Chuck Connors, the man who lived by his own rules and left behind a legacy that still defies belief. Born Kevin Joseph Aloysius Connors in 1921, he grew up in Brooklyn during the Great Depression. His parents were Irish immigrants. His father worked the docks. His mother patched together small gigs to survive. For Chuck, childhood was about grit. His escape? A baseball glove. He dominated every sport he touched at the Bay Ridge Boys Club. By 14, scouts were paying attention. His talent earned him a full scholarship to Adelphi Academy, where he excelled at baseball and basketball. By 1939, he was one of Brooklyn's top athletes. 25 colleges offered him full rides. While playing first base, he'd yell, "Chuck it to me," so often that teammates started calling him Chuck. The name stuck. Chuck Connors became a brand. Then World War II changed everything. In 1942, Chuck joined the Army. With his size and athleticism, he trained soldiers in tank warfare at Fort Knox, then worked with cadets at West Point. Even in uniform, he played semi-pro baseball, keeping his dream alive. When he came home in 1946, Chuck Connors wasn't done chasing the spotlight. He was just getting started. Chuck returned from war and immediately joined the Boston Celtics during their inaugural NBA season. At 6 feet 5 inches, he was one of their tallest players. Then he made history. During pre-game warm-ups, before the first Celtics home game ever, he shattered a backboard. The crowd hadn't even taken their seats. But baseball still called. By 1949, he was wearing a Brooklyn Dodgers uniform. His big league debut, he hit into a double play and the team lost. Just like that, his time with the Dodgers ended. Most players would have quit. Not Chuck. He went back to the minors, grinding through bus rides and small crowds. In 1951, the Chicago Cubs called him up. He played 66 games, hit 2 home runs, batted .239. Respectable, but something was still missing. Then came the moment that changed everything. Summer day 1952. Minor league game in Los Angeles. Chuck crushed a home run that made heads turn. One head belonged to Billy Grady, an MGM casting director. After the game, Grady handed Connors his card. "You ever thought about Hollywood?" Chuck laughed it off. But weeks later, he got injured. Suddenly, he had time to consider the offer. He walked into MGM Studios curious. 3 days later, he had a contract. His first role came fast. Pat and Mike with Spencer Tracy and Katharine Hepburn. Just a few lines as a police captain, but he nailed them in 2 takes. Tracy told him afterward, "You've got something, stick with it." Between 1952 and 58, Connors appeared in over 20 films. He wasn't polished, but his presence was magnetic, big, commanding, surprisingly nuanced. Then came Old Yeller in 1957. His performance caught the attention of television producers looking for a new kind of Western star, someone who could carry both a rifle and a father's heart. Chuck Connors was about to become that man. By 1957, television producers were building something new, a Western with a twist, a widowed father raising his son in the lawless West, less gunfights, more fatherhood and hard choices. When they saw Connors, they knew they'd found their man. But Chuck wasn't sold. He turned the role down. The pay was less than his movie work. The producers sweetened the deal with something actors rarely got: 5% ownership of the show. That changed everything. Chuck went all in. He trained relentlessly, learning to ride and shoot like a real cowboy. He worked with weapons expert Rod Redwing to develop his signature move, spinning his Winchester in a fluid circle before firing. Flashy, fast, unforgettable. The Rifleman premiered September 30th, 1958. 14 million households tuned in for the first episode. America was hooked. But it wasn't just the action. It was the bond between Lucas McCain and his son Mark, played by Johnny Crawford. Connors wasn't playing the perfect hero. He was a father trying his best in a dangerous world. He rewrote dialogue to sound authentic. He wanted Lucas to talk like a man who'd been through hell, not a polished television star. Single fathers wrote thank you letters. Critics praised his emotional depth. Kids begged for toy rifles. Behind the scenes, Chuck shaped the series. He attended writers' meetings, pitched stories, based episodes on his own life. He pushed for moral complexity, episodes where McCain wrestled with guilt, rage, mercy. The Rifleman wasn't just another cowboy show. It was a weekly exploration of values, family, and quiet strength. Chuck wasn't just starring in it, he was building it. When the show ended in 1963 after 5 seasons and 168 episodes, something unexpected happened. Instead of opening doors, Lucas McCain slammed them shut. Hollywood had typecast him. He wasn't an actor anymore. He was a cowboy, forever tied to a rifle. He turned down 8 Western pilots, desperate to prove his range. In 1964, he starred in a romantic comedy with Doris Day, Move Over, Darling. He played a banker in a suit. The film flopped. His towering frame still screamed, "Frontier hero!" Then came Branded in 1965, a different kind of Western. Chuck played Jason McCord, a cavalry officer falsely accused of cowardice. Each episode followed his quest for redemption. Darker, more introspective. He wasn't the flawless hero anymore. He was broken, searching. But nothing prepared audiences for what came next. In 1977, Connors took on the most controversial role of his career. One that would strip away every layer of heroism and earn him something he hadn't had in years: respect. On screen, Chuck Connors embodied loyalty and moral strength. But behind closed doors, a messier story. Whirlwind marriages, bitter divorces, public scandals that nearly destroyed his image. His first marriage seemed perfect. In 1948, Chuck met Elizabeth Betty Riddell, a Canadian model. They married within months. 4 sons followed. From the outside, the perfect all-American family. But as the Rifleman took off, cracks appeared. He was constantly on set. Whispers of infidelity followed him. In 1961, Betty discovered his affair with an actress. Divorce followed quickly. A year later, Chuck married Kamala Devi, a striking actress he met on set. Their chemistry was undeniable. They co-starred in multiple shows. But behind the scenes, tension simmered. She wanted him to take serious, dramatic roles. He believed his cowboy persona paid the bills. After 9 years, they divorced in 1972. The most controversial relationship came next. In 1977, 56-year-old Chuck married Faith Quabius, an actress 33 years younger. They met on Soylent Green. For a while, it seemed like he'd settled down. But Faith later accused him of emotional and physical abuse, citing his drinking. They divorced after 3 years. The allegations followed him forever. Actress Joan Crawford once said he could charmed the birds from the trees but couldn't stay loyal to save his life. His reputation cost him work. Some actresses refused to work with him. His children paid the price too. Son Jeffrey later said, "He was always chasing something. Sometimes we were just in the way." Chuck's politics were just as controversial. While Hollywood leaned left in the 60s and 70s, Chuck marched to a different beat. Conservative, outspoken, unapologetic. In 1964, while peers rallied for civil rights, Connors campaigned for ultra-conservative Barry Goldwater. He made speeches, shook hands. To many in Hollywood, it felt like betrayal. Chuck didn't care. "I'd rather lose a job than give up my principles." By 1967, as Vietnam divided the nation, Chuck doubled down. While protesters filled the streets, he joined a pro-war parade in New York. "We're fighting communism over there, so we don't have to fight it here." Fellow actors distanced themselves. Casting directors labeled him difficult. From 1968 to 72, he visited Vietnam multiple times, not for photo ops, but to boost troop morale. When the war ended, he criticized America for abandoning veterans. They deserved parades, not protests. In 1972, he was approached about running for Congress. He seriously considered it, but chose acting over politics. That iron will, the same one that got him blacklisted by some in Hollywood, was about to earn him the most unexpected invitation of his life. In the middle of the Cold War, when one wrong move could trigger nuclear catastrophe, Chuck found himself somewhere impossible, at the heart of Soviet admiration. While politicians traded threats, one American cowboy was bridging a gap that diplomacy couldn't. By the early 70s, The Rifleman had become one of the few U.S. shows allowed in the Soviet Union. An American Western when most Western media was banned, Soviet citizens didn't see capitalist propaganda. They saw a devoted father who stood for justice, not politics. By 1973, over 250 million Soviets were watching Chuck patrol the frontier. One viewer was Soviet leader Leonid Brezhnev. When Brezhnev visited Washington that year, he made an unusual request, not to meet the president, but to meet the Rifleman. Chuck was stunned. Their meeting was cordial, even playful. Chuck brought customized rifles as gifts. Brezhnev was delighted. They engaged in a mock shooting contest. For moments, no politics. Just a cowboy and a general trading smiles. The encounter made worldwide headlines. But it didn't end there. Brezhnev invited Chuck to Moscow. That fall, Chuck toured the Soviet Union like a rock star. He met officials, dined at the Kremlin, appeared at special Rifleman screenings where fans mobbed him for autographs. He filmed a documentary called Peace and Friendship for Soviet television. Chuck met everyday citizens, farmers, factory workers. He talked about understanding each other. It wasn't political. It was personal, and it struck a chord. Back home, some were baffled. Why would a staunch conservative engage with a communist superpower? Chuck didn't see it that way. He saw an opportunity to connect through character, not policy. He wasn't representing a party. He was representing people. While most Cold War exchanges ended in tension, this one ended in something far more human: respect. By the early 90s, Chuck was no longer in the spotlight but never forgotten. Rifleman reruns aired constantly. Letters poured in from people who grew up watching Lucas McCain. In 1991, he gave fans one last gift. The Gambler Returns. The Luck of the Draw, a nostalgia western bringing together old television characters for one final ride. Chuck appeared as Lucas McCain, complete with black outfit and Winchester rifle. The scene lasted less than 2 minutes, but for longtime viewers, seeing him spin that rifle again was magic. Johnny Crawford, who played Mark, appeared alongside him. Quiet, touching, perfect. Behind that brief return, Chuck was hiding growing pain. A lifelong heavy smoker, sometimes 3 packs daily, he was diagnosed with lung cancer in 1992. He kept it quiet, not wanting sympathy. He still made appearances, still smiled for cameras. But the disease moved fast. In October, Pneumonia complications sent him to Cedars-Sinai Medical Center. For 13 days, he battled. Family came. Old co-stars reached out. On November 10, 1992, at 71, he passed away. Lung cancer, with pneumonia as a contributing factor. Tributes poured in from everywhere. Actors, athletes, fans, politicians. Chuck wasn't just an actor, he was a symbol, a bridge between generations, a man who lived several lives in one. Professional athlete, television icon, political voice, cultural ambassador, all on his own terms. Chuck left behind a blueprint for defying categories. In sports, he's one of only 13 people to play both Major League Baseball and the NBA. He shattered the first backboard in Celtics history. He helped shift baseball's power dynamic toward players. In television, he redefined what a Western could be. The Rifleman wasn't about gunfights. It was about fatherhood, grief, morality, and manhood. Lucas McCain was a hero, yes, but flawed. Chuck insisted on that complexity. He wanted audiences to see the weight of violence, the cost of decisions. He helped reshape TV's idea of masculinity. In diplomacy, an unapologetic conservative won the hearts of an entire communist nation, not by switching sides or softening views, but by showing humanity through storytelling. His trip to the USSR wasn't about politics, it was about connection. His legacy isn't without blemishes. Failed marriages, scandal, emotional distance painted a different picture. He struggled with loyalty, with intimacy, with balancing fame and fatherhood. The contradictions between the man on screen and at home are part of the story too. Maybe that's what makes Chuck Connors compelling. He wasn't perfect. Proud, stubborn, flawed, deeply human. He could charm a room and burn a bridge in the same breath. He could be heroic in one moment and reckless in the next. Yet people still love him, still remember him, not just for the rifle or the spin, but for the weight he carried behind every scene, for the values he tried, imperfectly, to live by. For the stories he told, on screen and off. Chuck Connors lived a dozen lives. Everyone left a mark.